Right.
Because we think a woman stays there because she needs the money or she's afraid, and that's not true for you.
No. I supported him, as a matter of fact.
And yet you told us that every time you had money, he would beat you.
Yeah. Well, he wouldn't beat me every time I had the money, but when I had money, he expected most of it or half of it or all of it. And when I didn't give it to him, that's when I was beaten.
Because you didn't give him the money.
Right.
And he was always calling you dumb, clumsy, stupid.
Right. And I was called that all the time.
Did you think if you tried harder and you were a better person that this would stop? Is that what you thought?
I thought that if I would be nicer and if I would do things better and, you know, please him, that it would stop.
And if you gave him more money.
Right.
Now, you're wearing a disguise. Do you feel that he is going to try and get you?
Sometimes, yes.
Did he threaten he would try to find you?
Yes. He threatened that he also threatened that if he found me with someone else that he would kill me.
But when you were having your first child, he was with another woman at the time you were having the baby?
Right.
And you knew of it?
I didn't know until after I moved into a different state to be with him. And when I was with him, he was with someone else. So I had to leave. I had no other choice but to leave. Because he wasn't there with me. He was with someone else.
Okay, but you still love this person. And if you could work it out, you'd want to be back with him?
Probably so, yes. I would say that. But so I know...
The chances are you've gone back to him over and over again. You would go back now?
Well, not until I know that... Now I know more about the cycle. And I know for a fact that I want him to find help on his own for both his drug problem and battering me. And if we do get back together, I would think it should be a time period with it for a year before anything, you know, would happen between us.
Hypothetically, if he said, look, I'll go get some help, but let's live together while I'm getting it, would you?
No.
You wouldn't go back?
No, because that's just to get me back. And it's happened so many times.
How many times?
Oh, about 7 or 8 times.
7 or 8, okay.
And
Joyce was also severely beaten and tortured throughout her pregnancy. But after the baby was born, Joyce said things got worse. One night, the boyfriend tried to kill her by hitting her over the head with a hammer 10 times. Bonnie says she never thought it would happen to a housewife from New Jersey. And are we only talking about people of a certain color, people of a certain income? No. She was married to a man who slapped her around during 2 pregnancies, said she stayed because she always thought it was going to get better. Joyce, let's start with you. You stayed with your boyfriend for 5 years and were battered during your pregnancy. Did you try to get away?
Yeah, I tried to get away. I would go to a shelter and leave a house full of furniture, take my children. I had 2 other children, small children at the time, and we would go to a shelter, and it would be crowded, the conditions there with other women, with their children. It's like you have to start your whole life over again. And when you weigh starting your life over against going back, and he's going to be real nice when I go back this time. He's not going to do it anymore. He's going to change, and he loves me, and this type of thing. And I'd go back, and he'd give me money. This was the love-making stage where he was good as pie.
Did he always find you in the shelters?
Yeah, he would find me. This man would find me wherever I went. If I left, we went to a shelter, he would literally ride the streets up and down until he found my car, or he would go and badger my friends by going to their houses all different times of the morning, all different times of the evening. He would go to my parents' house and he would beg them, please, tell me where she's at. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt her, because I couldn't let anyone know. I had exhausted all my friendships by going to people and saying, could I stay for the night? Couldn't tell my parents because I was afraid they might do something and get them in trouble, so I couldn't tell them what I was going through.
What were you afraid your parents would do?
Well, I was afraid that if I told them that this man was beating me, that my father might shoot him
Okay.
or something like that.
Now, you moved out of state and he found you?
Yes. I went to South Carolina, and
That seems extreme that you could go to another state, change your identity?
well, that was several states. I mean, South Carolina was so close to Florida, it was like a hop and a skip to him. And he found me in the shelter where I was. I mean, it was a little town, so he would just go to the police department and ask them where is the women abuse shelter. And they'd say, oh, you know, they'd tell him exactly what it is. I mean, because there was really no compassion for the women's feelings there. It's only recently that they're taking a stand to protect the women. See, because when you go there, you are in fear of your life. I mean, people think, oh, she's getting beat up by her husband or whatever, but when I went to a shelter, I was literally afraid to go out on the streets, out the store, or we have to go somewhere and you have to go, and you may have, and I'm not what you call entirely without any kind of resources. And I can go out there and I can work, but I can't even, I have to go and I have to apply for welfare because I don't have any resources. I don't have any child support or anything like that coming in, and I have to leave my job, and I have children to support, and they have to go to school, so I have to take them out of school. And this guy will find me, and I can go to the store, and he'll jump out of the bushes, and there he is. You know, so the shelters are really,
You're saying what you're finding out, the shelters are crowded, there's a lot of people there. And sometimes it's probably more comfortable to be home than it is to be in a shelter. Is that true?
Sometimes it'd be overcrowded, and sometimes you can't get in, you have to wait.
And if you're being beaten, waiting is like go home, get beaten, and wait. That's a little hard. 10 times over the head with a hammer?
Yeah, he was hiding in my apartment. What he did was he would break the locks on the windows so that he could have easy access, because windows and doors don't mean anything to these guys. And there's a crawl space in the ceiling, and he was up in the crawl space hiding. And I had been home for like 4 or 5 hours, and all of a sudden I heard my name, and I'm like, nobody knows me around here. Who is this? And all of a sudden these legs come down out of the ceiling, and he's in the ceiling in the house. So I gave the police the weapons that he used to make, and I said, look, I think this man is trying to kill me. Could you take me to a shelter, or could you have him arrested? The guy says, I tell you what you do. You lock the door, let him break in, call us back, and we'll charge him with breaking and entering. Well, I'm out in South Carolina, first of all. I'm in the boondocks, and then he breaks in, hits me over the head with the hammer 10 times. And I pretended like I was dead, because finally I couldn't move anymore, and I was laying in a pool of blood, and he thought I was dead, so he ran out the back door. And at that time, something picked me up and pushed me out the front door to my neighbor's house, and they took me to the hospital. We prosecuted. They forced me to let him plead to a lesser charge. He was charged. I wanted him charged with assault and battery with intent to kill, and housebreaking, because that's the charges they had. And they said, look, if we take this guy to trial, he might walk, because there's a lot of people around here that think that women ought to be beat. So what you ought to do is let him plead to a lesser charge, and he'll get a maximum, he'll get a definite 10 years. So I went to the lawyer. I said, do I have to do this? He said, it's for your senior best interest. So I went, and I let him, he plead to assault and battery of a high aggravated nature, got the maximum 10 years. He was out in less than 3. And they never informed me. And I asked them to inform me.
They never told you when he was out in 3?
No, they never informed me.
By the way, it's interesting that of the women we're going to have on the show today, Joyce is the only one who prosecuted, because the number of women who ever prosecute for this are just infinitesimal number. So that theoretically somebody can beat you for years and years and years, and your chances of ever having to atone for that are very small. You learn to use a .357 Magnum, and you think he's going to come and get you?
Any time I
You
will
believe that this man is right after you now, like our other two women believe that he's after you now. Is that correct?
Any day that I see him, he will come to me. I know this. And
what's going to happen if you're on television and he's seeing you?
Well, I'm not really worried about that as far as I'm concerned. It's just like, I mean, the court, I know how the court systems are. I know what the police think. And I also know my rights. I went to school. I took criminal law. And I learned how to use the weapons that I need to protect myself, and that's just how it is.
What are we saying, Joyce? If this man comes after you now, which you say he will, what would you do?
Protect myself.
How? What are we talking about?
In whatever means possible. Because I'm not going to let him abuse me anymore. That's in my past. And I have a whole life to live. I have 3 children to take care of, and that's it. There's no questions about it.
We'll take a break, and then I want to ask Bonnie, does this happen to middle-class, middle-income white women? We'll be right back.
Think of your hands and think of a name. For years, it's healed and restored rough, dry skin. Now there's something more. Announcing new improved Vaseline Intensive Care, an even better formula with more healing ingredients. It heals rough, dry skin fast. So when you think of your hands, think of our name. New improved Vaseline Intensive Care Lotion, now with even more healing ingredients.
When I have a flare-up, the paper definitely makes it worse.
The area is very irritated.
Some toilet papers cause friction.
Just like sandpaper.
Scratchy.
Pain. Raw.
It hurts.
Now there's a lotion to help prevent the pain, but it doesn't come in a bottle. It comes on a roll. Introducing Charmin Care with baby lotion in every sheet.
Baby lotion? Is that what it is?
It glides across my skin. It's very soothing.
This feels soothing. My paper doesn't do that.
Ooh, I can't believe this.
Even though it's made for people with sensitive skin like hemorrhoids, it would be great for anyone to use.
New Charmin Care with baby lotion. Pain prevention on a roll.
That's marvelous. I'll rub that all over me. Are these your drugs?
Look, Dad, it's
Where did you get it? Answer me. Who taught you how to do this stuff?
You, all right? I learned it by watching you.
Parents who use drugs have children who use drugs.
21st century technology works day and night to link all Walgreens pharmacies, so your current Walgreens prescription records are always as close as your nearest Walgreens. With Intercom, we can tell you when savings are available. We may even help prevent an allergic reaction. Concerned pharmacists, superior healthcare technology, only at Walgreens.
When you bring your color film to Walgreens, you can order a second set of prints for only 99 cents. Get next day service, too.
Ever notice how plants in garden centers always look beautiful, but when you get them home, after a while, they're just not quite the same. You should use Peter's Professional Plant Food. 3 out of 4 greenhouse growers do. It's the safe, easy way to give plants the nutrition they need. So keep your plants beautiful here and here. Use Peter's Professional Plant Food, what 3 out of 4 greenhouse growers use.
We are listening to women who have been beaten while pregnant by the fathers of their unborn babies. Now, let me just make a personal statement. I have been listening to stories like this for 20 years. I like to think that television acts as a force to correct things. Has it gotten any better in 20 years? No. Are there less beatings? No. More. What's the problem? Why and why haven't we been able to in any way make any advances or gains on this? This is Bonnie. Bonnie, does it happen to white, middle-class, suburban ladies in our audience?
It happens to everybody. There's no economic boundary, no social boundary, no racial boundary. I never thought it would happen to me because I had no experience with violence. I grew up like every little girl thinking that this was wrong, that you didn't hit a woman, and to me, someone hitting a pregnant woman would be unthinkable. So I was really shocked when it happened.
You were having a baby. Were you upset about having the baby?
Well, we had been married for a couple of years, and we had planned on having children, but not just then. I had been going for some testing just to find out if, in fact, we could have children. And during that period of time, the doctor called me in and said, I found a couple of problems, and I think it might be very difficult, if not impossible, for you to get pregnant. We're going to do some tests. You'll come back in a month, and we'll sit down and discuss it. Well, I came back a month later, and it was, congratulations, you're pregnant. So, although...
Was he happy, too?
No.
He was not happy.
I had gone through first that month of thinking, one thing that I always knew that I wanted was to be a mother, and this was a real blow to me, the possibility that I might not be able to get pregnant. Then not having really planned to get pregnant at that time, to get the news was such a mixed blessing for me. It was a real emotional roller coaster. My ex-husband did not show any signs of enthusiasm. He really didn't verbalize things one way or another. But what happened, the first incidents, was we were both working professionals. Came home like most pregnant women. I was tired, didn't feel like cooking all the time, so we went out for a nice meal at a restaurant, and I did something unthinkable for a pregnant woman. I had morning sickness after the meal. I mean, major crime. We went out to the parking lot afterwards, and he started with, I don't know why I bothered even take you out to eat. You're wasting a perfectly good meal. This is ridiculous. And the next thing I know, his hand came flying across at me and hit me in the face, and my nose started pouring blood.
Because you had morning sickness?
Yeah, because I wasted a good meal.
Called you stupid and ugly?
Yeah.
Beat you till you thought you lost the baby? Never around?
Well, at that point in time, no, he didn't physically beat me that much. This was the first incidence of violence, which was one of the reasons that women stay, and me in particular, is this slap across the face. Not having experienced violence, not seeing a pattern, was easy for me to say, it must be the pregnancy. Instead of looking at the violence as a choice that he made, that he chose to hit me, I looked for excuses because I didn't want to believe this. This is a man who says he loves me so much. We've got the American dream. We're going to raise a family. We'll have the house in the suburbs with a station wagon and the 2 kids and the cat and the dog. And, to let a slap across the face end all this, to me at that point in time,
so you didn't do anything about the slap? Okay, Bonnie. Then what happened?
Eventually, he did hit me again, but that's part of what made it so difficult to leave. Was it could be a couple of years in between before there was any physical violence. So it was real easy for me to excuse and say, well, this happened then because of the pregnancy, and maybe it started over here because there was something else going on. But in the meantime, there was a lot of emotional abuse. Almost, it's like a litany of battered women here. You're stupid, you're lazy, you're weak, you're ugly, you spend too much time with the kids. No matter how clean the house is, they find dust somewhere. When are you going to get a real job that makes money? You become more and more isolated from people that support you, because when you're in their company, he tends to either make you uncomfortable or embarrass them. And then when you're with people that are his friends, they tend to support his point of view, where if he loses his temper with you, you must have done something to deserve this, rather than, does it matter whether couples are angry with each other, you don't do this. And so I was more and more just with him, and I think like most women, I felt that this was the man that loved me the most in the world. This is how I saw myself, through his eyes. And
it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah. If he felt this way about me, the man that loved me so much, then what must the rest of the world think?
You at one point thought you lost the baby?
I had a lot of bleeding with the pregnancy, and I had gone to the doctor, and he said to me, well, this is nature's way of telling you that there's something very wrong with the baby, that it's better that you've lost it. And then I continued to carry the pregnancy, and of course went through the emotional turmoil the whole time of thinking, my God, what am I going to deliver?
Did you, you had a second child?
Yes.
Were you beaten during the second child?
No, but the kind of abuse that I dealt with then was more of an indifference towards the pregnancies. Didn't want
Emotional abuse.
Yeah.
So you got different types of abuse, and it's all in the same bag. You have the emotional abuse, you have the isolation, you have the physical, the sexual abuse, and then a lot of times you're going through all of these at the same time.
Now, you did tell our producers that you called the police and they didn't respond.
Yeah, I had a particularly difficult time because he had a lot of friends on the police force, and when I finally decided that I wanted to go for help, on some occasions I would call the police and they simply wouldn't respond. And he knew this, and he would even say to me, "Go ahead, call the police, ha ha." At one point I was so desperate I called the state police and said, "I need help. I think this man is going to kill me. Can you come and help me?" The local police said there's nobody there. The dispatcher said there's nobody free that they can send. And they said, "Listen, we're sorry, but this isn't our jurisdiction."
This happens a lot, not being able to get help.
The same thing happened to me.
Did it happen to you?
I had to run out of my house with my son. It was very cold. And I had to run down the street to a payphone because he wouldn't allow me to have a phone. I had to run down the street and call the police. And when I called, she asked me if I needed an ambulance, which I did because I was in pain. And I called the police, and it was like an hour went by, and there was no response. And my kid is out there and everything.
In the cold.
In the cold.
Yeah.
Next, a woman who left 5 years ago. What's wrong? She's still desperately afraid.
Did you know that elementary school children actually prefer math over gym? And that the majority of students said their greatest wish was for better grades? Well, at Albertsons, we're helping kids achieve their goals. Sort of. Because when you shop at Albertsons, your receipts can help buy new IBM and Apple computers for our kids' schools. So you get low prices, and the kids come out ahead, too. Albertsons. We think like you do.
Was it open all night? So you got it?
I got it.
You're wonderful. Whoops.
Whoops.
Is it by NyQuil? It's a blue box that says nighttime, but...
It isn't NyQuil.
What if I'm still up all night sneezing and coughing?
I'll go get NyQuil.
No.
It's okay. I'm gonna need it too.
NyQuil, the real nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head fever so you can rest medicine.
How far do you have to go for a fixed-rate second mortgage loan? Not far. It's as close as the money store's local toll-free number. 1-800-LOAN-YES. You're just a phone call away from low fixed rates and quick approval. And after closing, you've got 2 weeks to change your mind for any reason.
Guaranteed?
That's right. Just return the money and the deal is off. At no cost to you. Call from anywhere for details about our money-back guarantee. Dial 1-800-LOAN-YES.
Static can add up to real embarrassment. Stop you! Static can also be a hair-raising experience. Stop you! And static can catch you off guard. Still stop you! Because the more you move, the more static can build up. But you can stop static cling by using Bounce regularly, because Bounce leaves clothes virtually static-free. It won't stop you! Bounce stops static before static stops you.
I want to commend Joyce on the way she feels about the way she's protecting herself, because I think that as far as men are concerned and they're out there and they're doing things like that, I think that she has the right attitude, and that's the way she should go.
Don't sit down so quickly. What is it that would make a man do this? Battering or battering pregnant women? What? Is there any thought in your mind?
I really don't know what would make a person really do something like that. I think it's kind of sick. I think they're suppressing something inside them that they really don't know how to express, and maybe that they need to have some type of counseling.
Is it anger? Are men
A
angry?
little bit of anger. Me, myself, I think I would never hit a woman. I think that the size difference is quite, it's extraordinary. But I think that especially when a woman is pregnant and carrying their child,
Sally?
it really is amazing.
I think it's about power and control also. These men try to control you, and as long as they can do that, they keep their spot.
Why? Is there a feeling that women are out in the workforce, independence is being won, and they're losing control? Is that what?
Well, it was happening all along, so just control.
I'd just like to say that I admire all you women because of your strength. And what you're going through is something you need strength for. I'd also like to say that any man that hits any woman has got to be, something's got to be wrong with him.
What? What? You think it's just a weak individual?
Frustration, it could be a lot of things. People go through so many frustrations. Men go through frustrations. They take it out on their women. This is very sad, and it's a very sad state of society that this has to be going on at this time. There's not enough being done.
So what should we do?
What you're doing right now.
That's right. All right.
Maybe with exposure to get over the ignorance and the indifference that's going on in society, and maybe some of this more shelters, whatever has to be done.
Well, let's ask those questions. Good, thank you. I tell you where my frustration is. My frustration is nothing has gotten better in the 20 years that I've been doing these shows.
But for us, it has gotten better because now there are places where you can go and get refuge. And they are updating them and upgrading them.
Is that really an answer? Build more shelters? I don't find that that's, maybe I'm the only one who doesn't find that's an answer.
Sally, I was disturbed a little bit. The young man's very sensitive to the issue, but he said, why do the men do this? It's frustration. Well, these same men feel frustrated at work, but they don't go around punching the boss in the nose because they've learned that you don't get away with that in the workplace. But we've taught them that it's okay to do it at home.
Where do we teach somebody that it's okay to do it?
Because we don't say that it isn't okay, and it's by omission that we're giving them the permission to do this. We need to talk about it like we are here today and say, number one, it doesn't go without saying that this is wrong, that it's not only wrong and unacceptable, but it's criminal, and we're going to hold you responsible if you commit that crime.
Right.
Hi, I was wondering if you're so afraid of that he might hurt you after the child is born, aren't you afraid that he might just hurt the children or the child? You know, if he's capable of doing this to you now, what is he capable of doing later?
Talking to our first two guests, right?
Well, that is something to think about, but he never hurt the children.
He has not.
He's never put his hands on them.
I would think it would be the same. I would worry about my child. Amy was married to a man for 12 years. She says the entire marriage was living hell, battered by her husband on a daily basis, and Amy left her husband 5 years ago, and you're still afraid that he will come back to get you?
I'm terrified, Sally, and in fact it took a great deal of agonizing and thinking to be able to work up the courage to come here today. But I think that the message that we've got is very important and it's got to get out, so I'm here.
Tied you to the bed and beat you every day.
This was during the last pregnancy. The beatings and the abuse escalated over the period of 12 years. And this was my third pregnancy. I'd had a smattering of shaking, sleep deprivation, slapping, but this was when I told him that I was going to leave him, that I could no longer stand it. I have left and been found like Joyce and brought back. But this time he knew it was final, and it's a great mistake for a woman to make, to tell her abuser that she's leaving him.
Why?
Yes, well, he told me he would kill me, and he tried to, and he did tie me to the bed, and he took the other two children and put them with the sitter, and I was virtually trapped in the house for, I think, a week and a half.
Well, I'm still saying nothing seems to have changed. Now, this is Jacqueline Campbell, who's a nurse who counsels battered women, and I've got to ask you, what do we have 3,000 shelters. Do we build 9, 10, 11, 12? Why don't we stop what it is that makes us need to build the shelters? We'll take a break. We'll come back and let you answer that.
See what this group of office workers has in common with this independent businessman.
We're all Florida residents.
So am I.
We're all under age 65.
So am I.
But we have $1 million in major medical benefits from Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Florida.
And so do I. So can you. And without joining a group, if you're self-employed, between jobs, or took early retirement, you may be eligible for big dollar major medical benefits enjoyed by thousands of Florida businesses, up to $1 million. It's from Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Florida. Just call this toll-free number for free information. Go ahead. Make a $1 million phone call right now.
Call now for your free information kit, 1-800-551-7800. The information is free and so is the call. Call 1-800-551-7800 now.
If you've ever been hurt in an accident, you know what it's like trying to get an insurance company to help you. They just don't want to listen. And you're always left in the dark, feeling frustrated. Fortunately, when that happened to me, I called Jacobson Goodman. Jacobson Goodman not only listened, but Jacobson Goodman got the job done.
At Jacobs and Goodman, no recovery, no fee. Call Jacobs and Goodman for a free consultation. For sound legal advice, tough legal action, and for someone willing to listen, call Jacobs and Goodman.
Drugs or alcohol has someone you love by the throat. You live with fear every day. Your family's in chaos. You don't know what to do. Call Glen Bay, not tomorrow, now. You need help from professionals. If you don't know what to do, we do. Call Glen Bay Hospital. But call now. You need help now.
Call Glen Bay Hospital of Orlando at 352-6550.
Yes, sir. Jacqueline, you got to help us.
I have a question for Linda. She said that her boyfriend made her watch him have sex with other women. I want to know if he did safe sex for the safety of her child.
Yes, that's a very good question. Is that even a consideration, practicing safe sex because of venereal diseases? Is it?
I could have called it disease.
Yes. The answer is no, he didn't, and that was the last thing on their mind, probably.
I have a couple questions. I'd like to know if you were beaten prior to your pregnancies, and if you weren't, did they show any kind of did they show any kind of violent nature or streak that would give you some kind of inclination to when you do?
Let's go down the list.
I did. I mean,
some were beaten. Let's just say some were for purposes of time.
Okay.
Some were not, correct?
I was not.
What is the answer? Build more shelters. Okay, come on now. What are we going to do? To me, that isn't an answer.
Yeah, well, we have to have enough shelters because of the danger of homicide. The control issue, the ownership issue that these men, I mean, a woman gets locked in her basement, the notion, if I can't have you, no one can, which is an underlying aspect of all of this abuse. So we have to have enough shelters so that women are safe, and we have to have a police system that responds.
We're still hearing 20 years ago. Yeah. 20 years ago, I heard the police weren't responsive. I am hearing that today.
We also have to get into the high schools. We have to get to these young men when they're in their dating years, so they don't feel like they have to control a woman, that a dating partner has to be their piece of property, someone that they can order around. And we have to get beyond the idea that jealousy is a sign of love. Jealousy is a sign of ownership.
We women need to know that jealousy is not, when they're jealous of us, it doesn't mean they love us. It means they want to own us. Bonnie?
Sally, in Morris County, we have a program that has gone into the high schools, and originally the purpose was to kind of nip this in the bud and educate the girls, and what they found is that already 1 in 8 of the girls, by the time they get through the high school, have already been in some form of abusive relationship. So
this is not getting, it isn't only the older women who are getting beaten.
No. For the women in Bonnie, it is. Why you said that you had a child after he beat you the first time with the first child? Why did you choose to have a second and third child after the first beating? Well, the first time, again, it wasn't, of course it was violence, but it wasn't a real beating. And I blamed that point of time and violence on the pressures. And you do go through a period of time. It's very common to go a year or two in the beginning without any signs of violence and to look at that as an isolated incident.
My question, the men, do any of them come from abused, where their father abused their mothers?
Jacqueline, are we finding that men saw dad abuse mother?
That's definitely with
We'll take a break.
Definitely.
The batter in my BVDs. I've reached new heights in my BVDs. I'm even more striking in my BVDs.
BVD brand underwear. Whatever you do, that extra comfort helps you do it better.
I became a TV heartthrob in my BVDs.
America, do it better. Do it in your BVDs.
At my age, I've done just about everything in my BVDs.
Gee, sounds awful, Bob.
It's no day at the beach, Steve. Sore throat, cough.
Try one of these.
Sugar-free Nice showers your throat with medicine for icy, cool relief.
Oh, cool. Feels better. Guess it's back to work for me. Yeah.
Put your throat on ice with Nice.
When you really want to clean, really disinfect, really deodorize.
So clean.
Get Broad Spectrum Pine Sol Liquid because you really care about clean.
Hello, I'm Tony Ginyard. Coming up today at noon, if you had trouble getting to work or school this morning, blame it on the muck. More violence in the Greyhound strike, and there's turmoil in Haiti. Plus, we'll give you a taste of Winter Park all today at noon. Join us.
Amazing Blue Star ointment stops itching fast. Jock itch, ringworm, psoriasis, tetter, and removes corns and calluses. Blue Star ointment, the one that's guaranteed. Ask for it.
This show is a combination of journalism and entertainment. We really reach out to the viewer. We try to pull them into the stories that we're doing. We're always pushing for something more.
Get the Inside Report with Penny Daniels.
Weeknights at 7 on WCPX.
WCPX News with a difference on Friday, in case you missed it. Going with the flow inside and keeping traffic moving outside the arena. And a look at the wonders of watermelon.
WCPX News. See the difference at noon, 6, and 11.
Help me. Are we talking about people who want power? Is that what men want? Is the reason for picking on a pregnant, small woman that you want power?
Part of it definitely is. And part of it also is that if you're socialized, if you're brought up to think that it's okay for a man to hit a woman, and if you saw that at a very young age, it comes back to you. That's what is learned.
What about the doctors? Are doctors allowed to say to a woman who's pregnant, have you been beaten?
Absolutely, and they absolutely have to. That's one of the aspects of battering during pregnancy. We're hoping to get physicians and nurses into the arena, asking about it. A lot of private physicians think, well, it doesn't happen with the people in my practice. That wouldn't happen to them, but they've never asked. They don't know that, and if they asked, they'd find it would.
I was just wondering, are any of the children have anything wrong with them once they are born?
Yes, there is an increased risk for low birth weight. Obviously, if a man is out to kill the woman, there is obviously the risk that the child will also be killed. We don't know the full extent, but there's also a lot of stress when a woman is just being threatened during the pregnancy. The stress of that constant fear can also be harmful to the child.
You mentioned during the break, you say that 20 years hasn't changed. I think the biggest problem is, it's still that old story, it's a man's world. Men are told that we're supposed to be strong, we're supposed to dominate, we're supposed to conquer, we're supposed to control. And we're taught that from we're children. So I think instead of really reaching children in high school, you have to get them while they're still that young, because the big problem is smart men, people making in business, they learned how to control and dominate, but they use money, it's
always dominant.
They're always, but people who don't have the brains, who don't have the self-security, will take control any way they can.
You have to educate the women.
They have money and power. They're going to take power over whoever else. Is that what I'm hearing?
But you have to educate the women. You asked about solutions, right? But the women have to understand that they have options. You always have options, and you can always make a choice. You see, but a lot of times you think you're locked into a situation, and we need to educate the women.
What do we say to women? You say to me what needs to be said.
Okay, well, what people say to women is...
No, what should we tell women?
What we should tell them is that you don't have to have someone control you. You don't have to take this. You can control your own life. Educate yourself. Change your career. Do whatever you have to do so you take control of your life, but you have to make the decision.
And don't be afraid to leave. Would you believe that, though, Janet?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I believe that. Although I've gone back and I've said I will go back, but I have left. I mean, I was in the situation and I left because my life was in danger, and I did it. Nothing was holding me back.
Even though we have shelters available and we have services, people still don't know they're out there. When you're battered, you usually go to an emergency room, you go to the police department, you're really seldom told that these things are there for you. This is something that everybody here can do. Even if you're not being abused, chances are you have a relative, you have somebody that you work with, somebody in the neighborhood. Talk about the subject. Let them know you have a safe place to go, that if you don't feel you can get out with your life today, that there are experts that can help you plan a time when you are safe to go.
That's right.
Yeah. Then it's a lot of us women, we be afraid to talk. You know, we hold things within us, and we need to get it out. Because like what I like to say to the women, it is help out here.
There is help.
And you don't have to go through this. Talk up. We need to talk up more. We hold things in.
There's hotlines, there's all kinds of
things haven't gotten better, I guess what you're saying to me is, Sally, let's continue doing it till they do get better. We'll back it up.
Yeah, we have to keep fighting.
Can your pharmacy quickly and easily transfer a prescription? Here's how your Eckerd pharmacist can help.
A prescription refill is always as close as the nearest Eckerd store. If your prescription runs out when you're away from home, stop by an Eckerd store and give the pharmacist the name of your regular pharmacy, whether it's Eckerd or not. Within minutes, the information will be entered into ContoCare, our computerized prescription service, and your prescription will be refilled. At Eckerd, we care about your health.
Chocolate. Sure. Folks say it's fine Dutch chocolate. It makes our Martha White brownies so good. They're just saying that because we put a ton of chocolate in our brownies, but only put in one nut. What they don't realize is that there's a lot of nut in this nut. You ought to see the tree.
Martha White brownies. 4 flavors for people who like a lot of chocolate and a lot of nut.
If you've ever been hurt in an accident, you know what it's like trying to get an insurance company to help you. They just don't want to listen. And you're always left in the dark, feeling frustrated. Fortunately, when that happened to me, I called Jacobson Goodman. Jacobson Goodman not only listened, but Jacobson Goodman got the job done.
At Jacobs and Goodman, no recovery, no fee. Call Jacobs and Goodman for a free consultation. For sound legal advice, tough legal action, and for someone willing to listen, call Jacobs and Goodman.
For a transcript of this program, send $3 to Transcripts, Sally Jesse Raphael, 267 Broadway, New York, New York, 10007. Or call 212-227-READ.
I was talking with Jacqueline. She said that we were right, about 5% of the people who beat up on their wives get prosecuted. And then when they do, the sentences are light. So Amy is saying, please, let's make sure that when you commit a crime like this, the punishment is sufficiently severe so that you don't go out and commit it again. Because when we make that a stronger punishment, we're less likely to go and commit a crime. And, nope, haven't got time. I love you. Goodbye.
Some members of our audience will receive, and a promotional fee has been provided by
Paytech.